for being behind the scenes. Well, hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Marianne De La Torre, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We're excited that you're able to join us for today's special webinar, Hidden Helpers Explorer, a community tool to support military caregiving youth, presented by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and the National Association of Counties. We're also grateful to be powered by our partners and friends at Wounded Warrior Project. Today's episode is geared towards celebrating April as Month of the Military Child by highlighting our Hidden Helpers work and a new exciting tool to our cities and counties partners across the US. We are honored to have you all on, especially our Dole Fellows and caregiver community invested in creating change in their local communities. Please make sure to let us know where you're logging on from in the chat below. We've made incredible strides to recognize and serve 2.3 million children who are military caregiving youth. We identify and celebrate them as hidden helpers. And I'm really proud to say that I'm a hidden helper myself, with my caregiving journey starting at age 11, which is why I can't tell you enough from firsthand experience how important this work is and how meaningful it is for you all to join us today. Before we get started, I want to mention to all attendees that this session is recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. With all of that said, we have a great program for you today, from a Hidden Helpers overview, tool demo, and panel at the end with Dole Fellow Nikki Stevens. We will take questions at the end during our Q&A panel discussion. Today's moderator, Molly Rensky, will be hanging out in the chat box. Be sure to submit any questions using the Q&A box located in the Zoom control panel. We'll be taking note of all the questions to get them answered live later on. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Rachel Mackey, who is the Legislative Director at the National Association of Counties, for remarks. Rachel, on to you.
Thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. So I just want to start out by saying how grateful the National Association of Counties is for our partnership with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation to support county governments in providing services, resources, and supports to the incredibly important population of military caregiving families in our country. We've benefited so much from this relationship and from the ability to engage with all of you and with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and their amazing network of partners. And so I just want to give a little bit of background on NACO and who we are and what we do and what brings us here today. So the National Association of Counties is the only organization representing the nation's 3,069 counties, parishes, and boroughs. We are heavily involved in providing our members with resources as they pertain to research and technical assistance for best practices on the ground. We have lots of conferences and other events, but we also drive federal policy advocacy goals, and we bring our members together for peer exchange around best practices for serving county residents, as well as providing data and research support, which we'll get into a little bit later. So I am blessed to serve as the liaison to NACO's Veterans and Military Services Committee, which brings together more than 100 county officials from all over the nation who are either elected officials or senior county employees that care a lot about our veterans, our members of the military, the issues and challenges facing these individuals and their families, and how county governments can utilize our unique role, both as a convener and as a service provider, to ensure that these populations are really getting all the resources and supports they need. One of the primary ways that counties serve our veterans is by employing county veteran service officers in 29 states. These are a workforce that help veterans access their federal VA benefits, their disability and compensation and pension and healthcare. But we do so much more than that, including by providing mental health services and access to housing, to economic opportunity through workforce programs and more. So we are really, really dedicated to improving outcomes for veterans, but we're also really committed to our military families, recognizing that not only are there many counties with military installations within the county lines, but also even if we don't have a base in the county, often we may still have active duty service members and their families living in our communities and requiring some unique supports and assistance. So we are really, really honored to be part of the Hidden Helpers Coalition, and as well as the Hidden Heroes Cities and Counties program. And we were really thrilled to be asked to join the Hidden Helpers Coalition, and really pleased that every organization had to make some sort of a commitment to how they are going to further the mission of this important network. And our commitment was to take some of the power and data that we have available and some of the tools we've created for our members, and make sure that we're able to use that to really showcase for state and local leaders this population that for so long has been invisible in so many ways. So, sometimes information is power, and we want to empower our members as well as all of the networks that they work with to realize that, the challenges facing caregiving youth and caregiving spouses and family members are not an out there problem, but actually one that exists in their state and in their communities, and that there's an opportunity to serve these families and uplift them, uplift their voices, and make them heard, and give them the resources they need to thrive. So through some generous partnership with Mathematica and their willingness to share data with us, we have integrated state level data around Hidden Heroes and Hidden Helpers into a tool that we have called the County Explorer, and we're really excited to demo that for all of you. Now, a lot of the data on County Explorer is county level, but due to some of the limitations associated with this data set, we're only able to provide a state level look at these figures, but we still think that this is such useful information for our members, as well as for our partners in the state government and even the federal government, as they think about programming and legislation and funding opportunities and the like, to, again, resource these families and these kids with the things that they need to thrive and succeed. So I'm really excited for you all to see this tool, and also, just want to flag that, your county leaders are there to serve you. So if you're a Hidden Helper or a Hidden Hero, really encourage you to make yourself known to your county officials and encourage them to get involved with NACO, with EDF, and the work we're doing if they're not already, and think about how they can be serving you at the local level. So with that, I'll turn it back over.
Yes, thank you so much, Rachel. And we're so incredibly thrilled to have NACO on and be in partnership to build this tool out for our Hidden Heroes network. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Hannah Hutler-Boyd, who's our program manager for Hidden Helpers. And she's an incredible colleague who's been driving our Hidden Helpers work here at the foundation. Over to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Marianne. I appreciate it. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about our Hidden Helpers program. We are beyond thrilled for the work that NACO has done to be able to make this data available, and appreciate the work that they've done to ensure the data is available and shareable, and that everyone can use it, but also ensure the privacy of those families as well. So cheers to y'all for making this happen, a really incredible tool that we're super excited to share with everyone today. As it's been alluded to from that study with Mathematica, and I apologize, I'm losing my voice today, but from that study with Mathematica, we identified approximately 2.3 million hidden helpers across the country. And you can see here our coalition that Rachel referenced, as well as EDF, define hidden helpers as the children, youth, and young adults who are impacted by the care needs or involved in the care needs of wounded, ill, or injured veterans. And this is specific to youth caregivers who are in that military and veteran connected space. Some other terms that you might hear for the population are young carers or youth caregivers. And due to, just the limitations of the data that's available and that American Community Survey that information came from, we would speculate that there are even more than that 2.3 million, and that there are hidden helpers and, of course, military caregivers and veteran caregivers, hidden heroes, all over your communities. And so one of the things that we really really love to start with when we're talking about who hidden helpers are is reflecting on the voices of hidden helpers themselves and how they describe themselves. And you can see here that our hidden helpers have really used a positive framework to describe themselves and their experiences being a part of that family caregiving experience. And what does youth caregiving look like? This is not a concept that a lot of people are familiar with. It's not something that we typically think of. It's something that can challenge our worldview and, parents take care of kids. It's not the other way around. Well, in a lot of cases, it is. So, what are those kids doing in those hidden helper households? They are doing everything from providing transportation when they get that driver's license to assisting with meal prep, helping other siblings with homework, medication management for the care recipient, attending medical appointments and having conversations with the providers to ensure consistency in care for that care recipient, or providing support for the well parent or for siblings in the household, providing comfort to the care recipient. So, what that looks like can vary, and I want to ensure that everybody understands each family is individual. And Nikki will share her experience, and there are others that have had similar experiences to her, but they're all different types of caregiving families, and everybody's life looks a little bit different, just like your and my lives look a little bit different. And then getting into the research, one thing I really want to draw your attention to on this screen is this study was done with parent-child partnerships from families that have a wounded, ill, or injured veteran. And 96% of parents who participated in this study shared that their child was helping with informal care in some way. So we just talked about what some of those ways are, but I think it's really crucial to acknowledge that even if it's not something that you necessarily see day to day, kind of like invisible injuries are not necessarily something you see day to day in somebody's life, that care is still happening on a day-to-day basis in those households. And then finally, just some really great takeaways that we'd love for y'all to understand about our hidden helper population. And I want to draw your attention here to that disruption in the child's day-to-day life because of the injury or the care needs. That can be, they don't get to go to a soccer game. That can also be impacts on their academics because they're going to doctor's appointments because there's only one parent that can drive. And so everybody has to go to X thing to take care of that care recipient. So it can be a really challenging experience when we know that from youth and child development, kids thrive in routine, they thrive in predictability. And because of the nature of caregiving and that journey and how it kind of roller coasters along, it is by nature unpredictable. And that can be really challenging for kids to process. And you can see here some of the other challenges that they may face as a result of that. But I'll let Nikki expand on what that experience has looked like in her house. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Marianne.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for really bringing that detail and attention to who hidden helpers are. And like I mentioned, growing up, I was a hidden helper myself, and it's incredible to see a lot of the work and the momentum to bring us to light, from establishing a coalition of service, partner organizations, veteran service partner organizations, to even seeing NACO create an incredible tool for highlighting us in data, because it's never happened before. And with that, as we innovate further, I really want to introduce Ricardo Aguilar, who is the Associate Director of Data Analytics for the National Association of Counties here. Ricardo, on to you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone either on the live stream or here within the Zoom meeting for giving NACO the opportunity to join you all today to give you a quick demonstration of what the County Explorer has and for the hidden heroes and hidden helpers data that we have added to the tool. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so you should all now be seeing the County Explorer. So As Rachel mentioned on her opening remarks, we do have a lot of information that we work with here at NACO, and also being one of the, or the only association that advocates on behalf of the 3,069 counties, parishes, and boroughs with a government in the United States. We decided to make the data that we have available for everyone. This is the County Explorer tool, which is, again, open to everyone. We haven't set any limitations as to who can access the tool. And because of that, we see County Explorer as a great way to publicize data that might not be easily accessible through any other tools. I know that there are tools out there like the census, data portal, we have BA, we have all the federal agencies, we have other organizations with data tools. But what we like about the County Explorer is that it is a very easy, simple to navigate tool. So with that said, I'm gonna just go ahead and dive in. First, how to access the tool. You can go to either explorer.naco.org or ce.naco.org, CE as in County Explorer. And you can see that from the navigation bar in here. Or you can go through the NACO website at naco.org. And you will see in there on the main menu bar that we have at top, there will be a link to County Explorer. But explorer.naco.org should be the easiest one, the easiest way to access it. And Rachel just posted a link in the chat for you all to be able to go to the tool. So once you get to the Explorer, you will see these, the welcome screen, as we call it here at NACO. This is showing you some of the main features that County Explorer has. You can find data, which is where we're going to need to go in order to find the hidden heroes and hidden helpers data. We have some advocacy profiles that have to deal with some of the initiatives that NACO has undertaken. We have Find a County, which is just a simple way to finding a county based on location, based on city, zip codes. And of course, you can sign up for our mailing list. But let's go into Find County Data. This is going to open up our drop-down menu. Right now, we have the hidden heroes data in 3 different categories within the tool. It is underneath the new from NACO. You can find it right here. We also have it under demographics, hidden heroes and hidden helpers. And we also have it under health and human services, hidden heroes and hidden helpers. All of those are going to take you to the same maps. And you'll be able to access the same information. It doesn't matter where you click from. So when I click on the hidden heroes and hidden helpers category, a submenu opens up. This is showing me the 2 different indicators that we have within County Explorer. So I can click on hidden helpers, and that is going to populate the map. Like Rachel mentioned at the beginning, because of limitations with the data, we have only been able to map this information at the state level. Hopefully with more advancements on the data collecting side from ACS, we might be from census, I'm sorry, we might be able to one day have this data at the county level. So once you click on this, you'll see a map will show up. We have data for all the 50 states plus the District of Columbia. And we have classified it into 5 different classes with the same amount of states within each of the classes. So you can see we have states that have a minimum of 1.9 thousand hidden helpers, and then we also have some states with 267, almost 268,000 living within their boundaries. So once we are here, we can start looking around. We see that as I start moving around, I can start seeing the different figures for the different states. We find that Texas is the one with the most hidden helpers. If I click on it, you'll see that this is going to open up. This we call it the tooltip within County Explorer, and this is giving you information on the amount of hearing helper, on the number of hearing helpers within the county, within the state, the number of hearing hearers within the state, and the number of disabled veterans within the state. And then this is also giving you the total population of the state, just to give you kind of a perspective as to where the state is, comparing hearing heroes, hearing helpers, and veterans versus the population within the state. So we can, again, exit out of that, start clicking through other states, and that same information is going to be provided to us. We also have some functionality within County Explorer that will allow you to, we call it quick compare, but this is just for you to create a table if you want to focus in on specific states. Let's say that I want to see the numbers for Washington. I'm going to create this. It's going to show me a table down here. Then I want to add to that the numbers of California. So add to compare, and then numbers of Texas, and let's add Mississippi. And County Explorer has started creating this table down here. As we can see, it's showing me the number of hearing helpers, the number of hearing heroes, all the information that we have within the tooltip right here in a table form, so that we can start seeing the different, the numbers across those different states, the states that we have selected. We can sort through all of these and clear the table once we have decided that we have gone through all the information. Also within the tool, we do provide sources. As Rachel mentioned, this has been a partnership with EDF and Mathematica. So we have added that information in here, as well as some links to the reports, which will help you all to find out more about what the topics being shown in the map are. We also have definitions for each of the states, and then we also have some notes down here that help you better understand the information within the map. So once I have seen this info, I can go back, click through the list, and go to some of the other indicator that we have in here, which is the hearing heroes. Once again, County Explorer is going to take all of the data and it's going to classify it into 5 different buckets, trying to have the same number of states within. But because we have the 50 states NDC, one of them ends up with 11. From here, you can do several different things. One, you can print a map. This will prepare this and put it in a nice format so that it can be printed on a single page. You can download the map. This is going to download an image. You can use it for your different presentations. This one right here is, once again, for you to join our monthly list. And this right here is going to allow you to share this map. So when you click on it, we'll give you different options. You can see you can do share to Twitter, share to Facebook, LinkedIn, or you can email it. And once you click this, it is going to create like a tweet. It is going to create an email or a post that will give you the link to the map, and it is going to give you some information, general information about County Explorer. Also, if you like to just share the link, you can just go to the address bar at the top and just copy it. All of the links automatically update whenever you change any of the maps. Rachel also mentioned some of the other things that that veteran service officers do. Well, she mentioned veteran service officers and some of the things that they do. So we do have that information in here. Let me move these. Okay, it doesn't want to move. So I can close. Okay, so I can search. We CVSOs. Rachel mentioned the veteran service officers. We have that information in County Explorer. She also mentioned information on funding and the funding that the CVSOs help veterans. The funding that CVSOs help veterans obtain. We have that information in here too. So as you go through the tool, you'll see that there are some other indicators that might be of interest for you. So right now, like I said, we have the Hidden Heroes and Hidden Helpers data limited to state level. However, we do have a lot of other data sets in here that might be of interest for you all. Yeah, that is it for the quick demo on Canny Explorer. I am going to conclude my presentation with that, and I'm guessing now we're moving into the Q&A section of the webinar.
Yes, thank you so much. And before we do so, I really just want to add here, I linked the Mathematica study here in our chat, and that really has been the basis and the framework of our Hidden Helpers work. So everything that you've seen here from Hannah's presentation to the demo, we really come back to Mathematica's findings. And for the local communities, sector, we really found that, local communities need to be more active and engaged with Hidden Heroes, military and veteran caregivers, and their children, so Hidden Helpers as a whole. And that really looks like, looking at peer connection and peer support, finding each other within that local community. How can you create events or initiatives that bring them together, and that access, other modes of support from mental health, even transportation, right? We just heard that, Hidden Helpers will drive their veteran parent to the hospital. I did that myself. So there's just aspects and, creativity to really look into our local communities' works in order to, one, of course, generate more funding for these initiatives, but also make incredible impact for these families. With that, I'm going to go ahead, just turn over to Rachel really quick. If she has any last remaining thoughts on the demo tool, feel free to share, Rachel, here.
Sure thing. So again, we hope that this is useful, and particularly for those of you who might be looking to make the case with your state or local policymakers or your federal policymakers of the need for supports and services, right? So like there's a bill even moving through Congress right now that would expand resources to caregivers, and sometimes just being able to point out to a member of Congress, hey, there are 500,000 or 200,000, individuals in your state that would benefit from this legislation, and showing it to them in a tool can be useful. So just want to empower you all to really take this and run with it. Some other data, though, that I did want to just flag is we've got a map of counties with military installations, which might be of interest, as well as some veteran demographic data. We also have data around education, and these are all things that matter, of course, to this network. So just encourage you all to play around in the tool. It's a really cool effort by NACO, and a really unique service we offer to the public. So we'll also just flag that if you have questions, you can email research@naco.org about the tool, and they're happy to help you out there.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rachel and Ricardo, for NACO's partnership in building this tool out. This is incredible work. So now we move on to our Q&A panel. But before doing so, I want to introduce Nikki Stevens, who is a 2015 Dole Fellow from California and lead volunteer for EDF's Hidden Helpers program. So when we're talking about advocacy work, like Rachel mentioned, in terms of, meeting with your legislators and really talking about issues pertaining to military and veteran caregivers, Nikki has been such a forefront for a lot of the causes here at EDF, and she's just been an incredible community leader as a whole. And so Nikki is a mother of 5 and caregiver to her husband, John, who served in Iraq in the early 2000s. In addition, she cares for her young son, who is on the autism spectrum. Her work as a fellow includes engaging lawmakers in legislation to support military and veteran caregivers, awareness campaigns, and working with the first city, otherwise known as San Diego, that's my city, in the nation to sign on as a Hidden Heroes city. Professionally, Nikki has spent numerous years in a nonprofit space, offering support and services to veterans, caregivers, and their families nationwide. Currently, her focus is to bring much needed attention and support to children from caregiving homes. It's her honor to be part of shining a bright on the courage and bravery of hidden helpers. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're so grateful to have you. Would you like to unmute and just provide some words or any other aspects of your story you wanted to highlight?
Hi, everybody. It's such an honor to be here. This is such an important conversation because this is how stuff gets done, right? And so hearing about the tool and being able to have this discussion, how we can help the kids that are growing up in caregiving homes, it's such an important conversation that has really, to be honest and blunt, it's taken way too long. But we're here now, and I'm so grateful to be part of the conversation. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much, Nikki. And so we're going to move into questions here about our Hidden Helpers Explorer tool. If you have some questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat here. And so we do want to ask you, Nico, in terms of what are your hopes, for evolving this tool further for hidden helpers and hidden heroes as a whole?
Yeah, certainly. So I think as Ricardo mentioned, right now we are limited to state level data. Some of that is, as he said, some limitations in the actual data that our federal partners provide. And also some of it is the reality that while this is an incredibly important population, it is also small in some communities. And we have to be really careful about protecting privacy. And so, we really need to be sure we're not accidentally calling out, people who don't want to be identified in a given county. So that's one reason for keeping it at the state level. I think we would love in the future to think about ways to potentially be able to resource local leaders with a little bit more information about the situation in their community. So that's, an ongoing conversation. Beyond that, though, just want to additionally, like I was saying before, sort of commend the use of County Explorer and data like this in your advocacy with your local leaders, with your congressional delegation, as a way to really highlight and back up the narrative that you are providing around the reality of hidden helpers. So for us, it's a useful tool because we engage in a lot of federal policy advocacy for counties, and we care about partnering with EDF to advance the priorities that they have for hidden helpers and hidden heroes. And so we'll be using this data and the way we've packaged it. But we also are always open to feedback, and to ways that we can sort of integrate things together. We've got food insecurity data in this map by county. Is it possible to think about how food insecurity interacts with the preponderance of, hidden helpers and hidden heroes, and thinking about making nutrition supports available if your county has high rates of food insecurity, and that you have some of these folks in your community. So again, these are just, other ways that you can sort of play around with the data and think about it and what it illustrates for your community. But yeah, we look forward to continuing to fine tune ways that we can be helpful through this tool and other resources for this community.
Yes, thank you so much, Rachel. So we'll move on to our next question here in our chat. So Kayla says, for states without a CVSO like Virginia, our state agency has 36 offices that assist with benefits who are accredited by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. Is there a way to account for that on the map?
Yeah, not in our map, just because our map is, kind of more specific to counties, but I will just flag that we have a wonderful partner with the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, or NACVSO, and they have a really handy tool where you can find service officers. They've got a state directory and a county directory, so it's not as easy as clicking on the state and finding all 36 offices. But if you were to go to their map, you could click on it and it would take you to the home page for Virginia's Department of Veteran Services, and that would allow you to be able to find and access the different accredited VSOs that might be available to assist you in accessing your earned benefits.
And I will add to that, this map was created from information provided by NATS VSO. So right now we were limited to that. However, we are currently on internal conversations as to how we can reflect other things, because something that we found out is that one, the information might not be the most recent, most accurate. It is 2020 and things have changed ever since. So we're trying to figure out if there is a way in which we can internally conduct our own study and find out which, like how the VSO structure within each of the states. Now I'm gonna bring back to the team the information about Virginia, so that way we can see if there is a way to reflect that within the tool.
I'll just add to that, you know, there's a difference between accredited VSOs and non-accredited VSOs, and there's different nonprofits, and then there's different local government and state government VSO employees. So some of those questions are just a harder nut to crack because, you know, we are not necessarily going to be able to list out every VFW, which might have a VSO, but, you know, so as Ricardo said, I think internal conversations around how we can continue to be helpful and helping people figure out where their CBSOs or other VSOs are is important.
Thank you for that. And of course, I know on our Hidden Heroes caregiver community, which we're streaming right now, rural communities tend to want that information disaggregated. So it's really great that you all are really taking the initiative to highlight those aspects within those counties, and even partnering up, right, as you mentioned, with the National Association of Counties and Veteran Affairs there. So we see the link here on the chat just for folks who want that reference. I'm going to go ahead and move on to talking about Purple Star Schools. I see a lot of great synergy between Purple Star Schools and this County Explorer in terms of identifying hidden helpers. I'm going to go ahead and just have Hannah and even Nikki, if you have any insight as to explaining what Purple Star Schools are and how can we really, you know, engage schools with a high density of military connected youth through this tool and other initiatives.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. Purple Star Schools are a designation that the state legislates into existence, and there are specific requirements that schools go through in educating their staff, programs that they have to implement in order to demonstrate their support for military and veteran families. And a lot of that is facilitated with our dear friends and partners at Military Child Family Education or Military Child Education Coalition, and they do a wonderful job of providing those resources. I will say at the local level, one of the ways to really impact the experience of kids is to work with those schools. I'll hand it over to Nikki in a second. I know she's done a lot of work with her local schools, but advocating within the school board, with your superintendents, within that administration at the school level for hidden helpers. One of the things that we've been looking at too is attendance and truancy legislation as well, because that has a really large impact on caregiving families, and many families have to consider pulling their kids into homeschool because that fits their situation better in terms of truancy, but not necessarily having as much time as they would like to be able to dedicate to their child's education. So there's a lot of considerations that come into play when you're talking about hidden helpers and education. Nikki, you have a broad wealth of experience here. Do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Well, I think Hannah, you touched on things perfectly, but even schools that aren't Purple Star schools, there are schools out there, especially our area where Marianne and I are located, and we're actually in two separate counties that kind of run into each other, but we have many, many bases surrounding us. And the schools here are heavily populated with veterans kids. And there is a need for a tool as NACOs to determine what that looks like, what's the data, who's in our school, how can we best help. And I think everything that Hannah mentioned, I am a strong believer that it really does start with the schools and the local government. I think that the two need to really work hand in hand in this issue. NACO and the local government, counties, they don't have the outreach as schools have. So the two of them, if they were able to kind of come together and work towards this in support of military kids, I think that we could really get some really amazing support out there for our kids. Just the awareness alone in the schools, our kids, outside of the time that they spend with us, they spend the most time at school. I think kids are in school 180 days minimum, and 7 hours a day, roughly. That's 1,300 hours, nearly 1,300 hours a year. So this is the second place that our kids can go to, that are going to, and they need to have things put in place. Truancy is real. Missing school is real. The difficulty in going to school and participating because mom or dad just went away in an ambulance at 5 a.m. and the other parent is trying to keep some normalcy, right, to get the kid to school, but also that allows that caregiver to get back to the hospital where their veteran is. So there's a lot involved there. I think this tool is really a fantastic start. And we just need to let those schools and those school districts know that it's available for them to view.
Thank you so much, Hannah and Nikki. That's incredible. I use the word incredible a lot because it is incredible, but it's a fantastic, testimony as to how this tool can be really put into action, especially on the local level for schools. And you really hit the nail on the head. I think local government, it has the greatest proximity to its constituents, right? Just because, it's as local as you can get in terms of connecting with your elected officials who make decisions on the daily for all of us. And so I want to move on to the next question here. Just speaking on that, in terms of what are some local initiatives that communities can really take on to support hidden helpers and even just military and veteran caregiving families as a whole. And I'm going to open this up to all of you here, and I'll start I'll start with Nikki, because you really drove on the passion for hidden helpers here.
So the things that come to mind that can be done are visibility and funding. And really it's, if cities and local areas are doing things for veterans, these are things that we can tack on, right? We can include the kids in, do something for Veterans Day events, resources for the families. This tool actually is really incredible because it allows cities and counties to know what their demographic is. And so being able to bring a community together and tapping into local resources and working together as a whole, school districts included, I think that could be amazing.
Thanks so much, Nikki. And then I'm going to go ahead and pivot to Hannah and then NACO in terms of their hopes and dreams for this tool and local initiatives.
Yeah, I think Nikki shared so brilliantly. I'm going to drop in the chat as well. From our humble friend Marianne, just recently did a podcast with the Military Child Education Coalition. And to that point of being able to raise awareness and share the stories of hidden helpers, help the community, help leaders, help school districts recognize that these families, these children exist within their communities, like we talked about earlier. It can be a challenging thing for someone like me, a cisgendered white woman, to wrap your head around, because that isn't part of my experience as a family, and being able to understand that there are kids and spouses and friends and family members that are taking care of these wounded, ill, and injured veterans, and just elevating their stories makes such a huge difference to be on the radar of the people in the community as they're making policies, as they're developing different programs. And that not only goes for those schools and for local elected leaders, but also your religious communities, your mosques, your churches, your synagogues, as well as local boys and girls clubs or 4-H programs, YMCAs, those types of programs that are in the community that are directly serving kids and families on a daily basis, helping them to understand this particular population that's a part of their community and what they can do to help those families feel seen, take a trauma-informed care approach in any program that they're developing, and incorporate them into that fold and help them to feel supported by that network and by that community around them.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And then Nako, feel free. Do you have any other thoughts to add on?
Well, certainly, through our partnership and participation in the coalition, we were privileged to sort of help inform the creation of resources for policymakers specifically. And I'm happy to drop that link in the chat, but I think it's a good starting point for county leaders or for folks who want to take stuff to their county leaders to help them think about what they can be doing on the ground. We talked about the data identification piece, and counties can fund community needs assessments. They can talk to schools about intake forms. They can convene service providers and create resource hubs. There's a lot that can be done at the local level. Also, as was mentioned, a lot of the resources that we already have for veterans, it's possible to build those out for their family members and for caregivers. And I would just add that we are really proud to participate in the Hidden Heroes Cities and Counties program, and many NACO counties have adopted resolutions to express their support for Hidden Heroes. And I think figuring out if your county is a Hidden Heroes county is a great way to be clued into the fact that they might be interested in stepping up for Hidden Helpers as well. So would just kind of flag that as well. And that's an opportunity we continue to make available to our members and continue to ask EDF to make available to our members and brief them on. So we're thankful for the partnership, and we continue to try and share out with my committee and our leaders the different opportunities and resources that they can make use of to help this population.
Yes, thank you so much, Rachel. And we're going to finish off here with Q&A. And I want to ask our panelists here if they have any last words in terms of what advice do they give to, county elected officials in driving local initiatives, but also, folks, just, community members who are really invested in giving Hidden Helpers a light in their local communities. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with Hannah, and then Nako, and then I'll close out with Nikki.
Marianne, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because you are a Hidden Helper yourself, as you've shared. And I would love to ask you, what things would have made a difference in your life, in your community, and on that county level that those who are listening today can take away? Sorry to throw you that curveball, but I always want to make sure we're highlighting those stories of Hidden Helpers.
No, I really appreciate that. And I was very, I was very a little bit, when you put the link of my podcast, I was like, oh, I was like surprised, pleasantly surprised. So, I really appreciate that question. And growing up, I'm from San Diego County, which is a huge military town. And just to share a little bit of my story, my mother was diagnosed with PTSD and service-connected disabilities back in 2007. And I was 11 years old at the time, trying to figure it out. And I also I'm Filipina. So for us, there's a lot more cultural stigma to navigate mental health. And so I would say the biggest takeaway for local communities to understand about hidden helpers is just knowing that one, we exist, right, to recognize us. And that's why when you're saying knowledge is power, data is power, NACO's tool is just it's such an important and innovative tool to bring us out of the shadows and invisibility. Second is really creating more initiatives for us at the local school level, as Nikki mentioned, but also programs. If it's military family programming, right? A lot of folks have veteran parades, resource fairs. It's making sure that the families are included whenever we do veteran initiatives, and oftentimes, and I can say this from the San Diego County perspective, it took a while to include families, right? And Nikki knows this, having started the awareness campaign from the very inception. So it's a lot of culture shift and culture change, but I know we're going to get there. And it really comes, from local leaders who recognize us. It comes from our caregiver community, our Dole Fellows who are on the ground, boots efforts to drive it all forward, similar to Nikki. And so I really just do think, it's greater awareness, but also making sure that you see us, you hear us, and also include us at the table in the decision-making process. But overall, thank you so much, Hannah, for really pivoting that question to me. I'm gonna go ahead and pivot back to you, and then NACO, and of course, closing it out with Nikki.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better myself, Marianne. I think this is your lived experience, and so you highlighted those things so beautifully. I don't want to follow that, so I'll let NACO follow that.
Well, I think that exchange just points to the fact that there's real power in listening to the lived experience of our constituents. And I think counties are great conveners and can be responsive to the needs of our community. So, for any county official that is interested in supporting hidden helpers, I would really encourage them to be in listen mode first and then act on what they've heard. And I think that, again, we're really thankful for the resources that EDF has made available through this coalition to help resource county officials and other partners in local and state government, as well as community stakeholders in doing just that.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And then I'm going to close it out here with Nikki.
So I would say that that policymakers, local governments, counties, organizations that work in this space, we have the opportunity now to support the young caregivers. We have the opportunity now to help them excel, on this journey. Sometimes it just takes that little bit of support, and I'm sure Marianne has stories, to attest to that. I know that a teacher really helped her when she was young, and sometimes that's all it takes is for someone in our communities to know what's going on, to offer the support. And I would also like to say to caregivers, we have this tool that we can use that NACO has created. Go and have a conversation with your local government, your policymakers, your state senators, your state assembly people, your, Congress people, your senators. You can go and say, hey, I just want to show you something. Let's have a conversation. This is who I am. I've got, kids that are growing up in our community, and NACO's created this great tool, and I want to take a look at it with you. I want to show you. And, we can start the conversation. We can do that as caregivers. We can take it to the schools. We can show our principal. We can show our teachers. We can show our superintendents. We can show the librarian, at our county libraries. But I think this is a fantastic conversation that we're having. And sometimes it really is just taking this initiative to support these kids, these youth caregivers. The journey can't be easy. It can't be easy, and we're learning that now through the research. And but we can continue the conversation, and through this tool, with NACO's help, I think we're going somewhere. So thank you guys. Thank you for creating this tool, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Nikki, and thank you to everyone who was on our panel, NACO, for, again, creating a fantastic tool. Incredible, I know it's my word. Hannah, for all your work and really driving Hidden Helpers work at the foundation. We really truly couldn't do it without you, and for you to just bring it into light and from ground up has been it makes me emotional just thinking about it. And of course, Nikki, that was beautiful. You just bring so much of a wealth of experience and also just passion when you speak about caregivers and hidden helpers as a whole. And so we're so glad to have you all here today. With that, I really want to thank all of our viewers. This recording will be on our YouTube channel. We'll go ahead and send that link out to you all in an after email. Please also note this video will be used for our fellows training. So our future classes of fellows, I know we have some of our new fellows on here right now. We want to congratulate you and welcome you into the EDF family, and also our caregiver community who's invested in local change and talking to their elected officials, the powerhouses. We're so humbled to have your presence here today, and those watching as well. With that in mind, we're grateful to Wounded Warrior Project again for powering the series, being a partner in our coalition work, and really want to wish you all a great day. So thank you everyone so much, and we'll go ahead and just stay here for about 3 to 5 minutes in case folks do want to take the time to meet or come up with questions, especially within around our cities and counties work. But again, thank you so much, everyone.